The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with the deep hum of alien voices, each one an echo of centuries of wisdom and power. But today, the laughter that filled the air was not the sound of respect. It was mockery. The vast, metallic room sparkled with the light of distant stars, yet it felt cold. Every member of the council, beings of immense power and ancient knowledge, turned their eyes to the human standing in the middle of the room. John, a mere human soldier, they whispered. How could a creature like him inherit the throne of the Xelorian Empire? How could someone so ordinary be chosen to rule over such a powerful galaxy? The council mocked his every step, dismissing his rise to power as nothing more than a fluke, the result of chance, not skill. Their eyes gleamed with superiority as they looked down on him. In the center of the chamber, John stood still, his face showing no emotion. He was used to the mockery by now. A human, a simple soldier from Earth, being thrust into the heart of a galactic empire, surrounded by beings of unmatched power and technology. He could hear the council members whispering, see their judgment in their eyes. Yet there was a calm confidence in John's demeanor. He knew something they didn't. As the laughter died down, John's mind flashed back to the day that had brought him here. It had been a simple mission, one that should have been no different from the hundreds he'd completed on Earth. But this one had changed everything. The Xelorian king, ruler of the most powerful empire in the galaxy, had been betrayed. A coup had been launched, led by a group of alien generals who had sworn to overthrow the king. The king's life had been on the line, and his only hope was an unlikely savior, John. John had been chosen by fate, a soldier with no extraordinary abilities, no special lineage, just a man who had been in the wrong place at the right time. When the Xelorian royal family was attacked, John had led a small team of soldiers to fight off the assassins. It hadn't been easy. The battle had been brutal, but John's natural ability to think on his feet, his courage, and his heart had turned the tide. He had saved Princess Lyra, the king's beautiful daughter, from certain death. And from that moment, everything had changed. The king, grateful beyond measure, had named John his heir. He had chosen John, a mere human, to lead the Xelorian Empire. This decision was unheard of. The king's choice had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, especially to the Galactic Council. How could someone so insignificant, someone who was not even of alien blood, be entrusted with the power of an entire empire? But the council did not know John as the people of Xeloria knew him. They did not know the man who had risked his life to protect the princess. They did not know the hero who had shown compassion, even when his own life had been at risk. They saw only a human, someone beneath them, someone unworthy of such power. They couldn't see the fire in his heart, the strength that had been forged in the fires of battle. They could not see the leader he had become. As the council continued to mock him, John didn't flinch. He didn't need to defend himself. He wasn't here to prove anything to them. He was here for a purpose much greater than any of their petty criticisms. His mind wasn't on the mocking voices, but on the mission ahead. The galaxy was on the brink of a new era, one where humanity would play a central role. The princess, Lyra, stood beside him. Her beauty, her grace, her strength, everything about her seemed to shine with a light of its own. The same council members who now mocked John had once called her the most beautiful being in the galaxy, a symbol of everything the Xelorian Empire stood for. She was the king's daughter, and she had been betrothed to John, a decision that had caused a stir across the galaxy. Many saw it as an insult to the Xelorian people. To marry a human was unthinkable. Yet, John saw more in Lyra than just beauty. He saw a woman of strength, of intelligence, and a warrior who fought for her people. Together, they had overcome impossible odds. The bond between them was unbreakable. As the council jeered, Lyra's hand tightened around his, offering silent support. They were a team, a force that even the most powerful aliens could not ignore. As the mockery continued, John remained calm, his thoughts steady. But deep inside, He knew the truth. The council didn't understand the strength of humanity. They didn't understand what it meant to fight not for power, but for the ones you loved. They didn't know the human spirit, the spirit that had brought John here, and the spirit that would carry him forward. They hadn't seen humans in action, but they would. Soon. The story had only just begun, and John's journey had only just started. The Galactic Council might laugh at him now, but the galaxy would soon see the true power of humanity. They would see how a simple soldier, a man who was once mocked and ignored, would rise up to change the fate of the galaxy forever. John wasn't just the king's heir. He was a new kind of leader, a hero the galaxy had never seen before, and he would prove it to them all. As the mockery died down, and the meeting continued, John's resolve only grew stronger. He wasn't here to make them respect him. He was here to make them fear him. He wasn't just going to inherit the throne. He was going to take it, and the galaxy would never be the same again. John had always been an ordinary man, just a soldier, born on a small planet called Earth, with no special lineage or power. His life had been filled with the usual struggles, fighting for a cause he believed in, doing his duty, and going home to a small apartment after every battle. He never expected that his life would change so dramatically. But on that fateful day, everything shifted. It had started like any other mission. He had been part of a routine peacekeeping operation on a distant planet when a message came through. The royal family of the Xelorian Empire was under attack. A group of alien assassins, hired by a rival faction, had stormed the royal palace, and the king and his family were fighting for their lives. The Xelorians, known across the galaxy for their beauty and advanced technology, were in grave danger. John was a soldier, trained for combat, but nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to face. The Xelorian kingdom had been one of the most powerful in the galaxy, and its palace was filled with security measures beyond anything he had ever seen. Yet despite all their technology, the royal family was on the brink of collapse. The assassins had struck with ruthless precision, and the king's guards were being overwhelmed. The Xelorian king, desperate to protect his daughter, Princess Lyra, had made a choice that no one could understand. He sent a desperate message to Earth, asking for help from the most unlikely of sources, humans. It was a last-ditch effort to save the life of his beloved daughter and secure the future of his empire. The Xelorian Empire had always been suspicious of humans, seeing them as weak and primitive. But the king knew that if anyone could fight the way they needed, it was someone with the heart and courage of a soldier. John, a man who had never expected to be part of such a galactic struggle, received the call. He didn't hesitate. It wasn't just duty that drove him. It was a sense of justice, of protecting the innocent. Without fully understanding the gravity of what he was about to do, John boarded a ship and made his way to the Xelorian Empire. Upon arrival, the palace was in chaos. The air was thick with smoke from burning buildings, and the sound of blasters filled the air. John joined the royal guard and fought side by side with them, his mind racing to keep up with the battle. It was a brutal conflict, one unlike any he had ever seen before. But despite the odds, John managed to lead the Xelorian soldiers in turning the tide. His tactics, though simple, were effective. He understood the art of war in ways that the Xelorians hadn't. He didn't rely on advanced weapons or alien technology. He relied on his instincts and the lessons he had learned as a soldier on Earth. As the battle raged on, John found himself face to face with the leader of the assassins. The alien was a towering figure, his armor gleaming with deadly precision. It was a fight for survival, and John's life hung in the balance. But just as the assassin raised his weapon to strike, John moved with speed and precision, landing a blow that brought the enemy to the ground. It was then that he saw her, the princess. Lyra, the beautiful daughter of the king, was standing nearby, watching him. She had been rescued from the palace's inner chambers by John's team. Her beauty was striking, but it was the look in her eyes that caught his attention. She was a woman of strength, not just someone who relied on her looks. Her fierce gaze told him that she was more than just the princess of an empire. She was a warrior in her own right. In the days that followed, John and Lyra grew closer. As he helped the royal family recover from the attack, he learned more about her world. The Xylorian people, despite their beauty and power, were not immune to the same struggles as any other civilization. They had their own fears, their own weaknesses, and their own enemies. And Lyra, though a princess, had long been involved in the affairs of the empire. She was no stranger to politics and war. John, a soldier who had never thought of himself as anything more, found himself drawn into the heart of Silurian life. The king, impressed by John's bravery, wisdom, and leadership in battle, offered him an unimaginable gift: the throne. The king declared that John would be his successor, the new ruler of the Silurian Empire. It was a decision that shocked the entire galaxy. How could a human, with no royal blood, inherit the throne of one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy? The news spread like wildfire. The Galactic Council, composed of alien species from across the universe, could not believe what they were hearing. A human inheriting the throne of the Silurian Empire. It was unheard of. They were filled with disbelief. And soon, their mockery began. How could a mere human, without the intelligence or advanced technology of the alien races, rule such a vast empire? But what they didn't understand was that John was more than just a soldier. He had proven his worth through his actions, not his bloodline. He had saved the life of the king's daughter and had shown the strength and courage needed to lead. He wasn't just taking the throne. He was earning it, through every battle, every challenge, and every sacrifice. As the council laughed and mocked him, John remained calm. He didn't need to defend himself to them. He knew who he was. He knew what he had done. And he knew that, despite their ridicule, he would prove them wrong. The galaxy would soon see that a human could lead just as well, if not better, than any alien ruler. He had faced impossible odds, and he had won. The council's laughter faded into the background as John looked ahead. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was the future of the Silurian Empire, and he would show the galaxy that humans had a place among the stars. As the council members continued to underestimate him, John's resolve grew stronger. He wasn't just here to rule. He was here to change the course of history. The Galactic Council sat in their grand hall, a massive dome-shaped room that felt more like a throne room than a place for meetings. The walls shimmered with the light of distant stars, and the air was thick with the power of centuries of history. But today there was an uncomfortable tension that filled the room, a tension born from the decision that had shaken the galaxy. The news had spread like wildfire, and every member of the Galactic Council had heard about it. A human had inherited the throne of the Silurian Empire. It was almost too much for them to believe. John had never imagined that he would be sitting at the head of this room, surrounded by beings of unimaginable power and advanced technology. He had been a simple soldier, raised on a small planet, fighting in wars for causes he believed in. But here he was, standing before the most influential leaders in the galaxy, who were now questioning his right to lead. The Galactic Council consisted of representatives from various alien races, each more advanced than the next. They had seen civilizations rise and fall, had witnessed wars that spanned galaxies, and had built empires that stretched beyond the stars. They had no respect for a human like John. To them, humans were primitive, undeveloped creatures who barely understood the universe around them. They saw them as nothing more than an insignificant species, and the idea that a human would rule the Silurian Empire was laughable. The first time John stepped into the council chamber, the members had looked at him with disdain. Their eyes narrowed as they studied him, their minds quickly dismissing him as an anomaly, a glitch in the grand scheme of things. The leader of the council, an alien with multiple eyes and a face that resembled a reptile, sneered at him as though he were a pest to be dealt with. "This is who the king of Siluria has chosen to be his successor?" the leader had asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. John stood firm. He didn't flinch under their stares, didn't let their mockery rattle him. He knew that his position as ruler of the Xelorian Empire wasn't something that had been given to him easily. He had earned it, every step of the way. He had saved Princess Lyra, fought off assassins, and proven himself to be more than just a soldier. But to these beings, none of that mattered. To them, the fact that he was human was enough to disqualify him from ruling an empire. The Council's resistance to his leadership was palpable. They made it clear in every meeting that they did not trust him, nor did they believe he was capable of leading such a powerful empire. Every time Jon spoke, their eyes would roll, or they would whisper among themselves. Their voices, so full of authority and power, tried to drown out his words. They spoke of his lack of experience, his primitive origins, and his lack of advanced knowledge as reasons why he would fail. They claimed that he was simply a figurehead, a puppet ruler placed in charge by the... But Jon didn't care about their mockery. He had come to understand the ways of the Xelorian Empire, and he knew that the key to ruling wasn't in the advanced technology or ancient wisdom of the Council. It was in understanding the people, the culture, and the needs of the galaxy itself. And it was this understanding that the Council couldn't see. They were too busy looking down on him to realize that he, a mere human, could offer something they couldn't, a fresh perspective, a new way of thinking. Jon had no illusions about what he was facing. He knew that the Council would try to undermine his authority at every turn. They would work behind the scenes to discredit him, to make his reign as difficult as possible. They had already made their intentions clear, and Jon was ready for it. He didn't come here to play politics. He came here to change things. The galaxy had been ruled by the same old powers for centuries, and it was time for a new approach. Lyra, the beautiful and fierce daughter of the king, stood by his side through it all. She had been a constant source of support, offering her wisdom and strength as they navigated the difficult politics of the Xelorian court. She had been groomed for leadership since she was a child, but she had never expected to see a human take the throne. Yet, she had come to see in Jon what the Council could not: a leader who cared about the people, someone who was willing to do whatever it took to protect the Empire. Together, Jon and Lyra had started to make changes. They introduced reforms that focused on strengthening the bond between the different species of the galaxy, hoping to create a new era of peace and prosperity. But the Council resisted every move they made. They argued against every decision, questioning Jon's ability to lead, even when the results spoke for themselves. The more Jon pushed for change, the more the Council dug in their heels, determined to show him that he didn't belong in their world. The resistance grew stronger as the days passed. The Council began to challenge Jon's decisions more openly, using their influence to sabotage his plans. They refused to approve the new military strategies Jon had put in place to protect the Empire from outside threats. They blocked his attempts to modernize the fleet, arguing that the Xelorian forces didn't need any help from a human. They even tried to convince the people of the Empire that Jon was unfit to rule, claiming that the human soldier could never understand the complexities of their civilization. Jon, however, was not one to back down. He had seen this kind of resistance before, in the wars he had fought in as a soldier. He knew that leadership wasn't about appeasing everyone. It was about making the hard choices and standing by them. The more the Council pushed against him, the more determined he became to prove them wrong. He wasn't going to let anyone take away his chance to lead the Xelorian Empire into a new age. But as the Council's resistance grew more intense, Jon realized that he wasn't just fighting for his throne. He was fighting for something much bigger. He was fighting for the future of the galaxy, for the people who had placed their trust in him. And he would not let anyone, especially the Council, take that away from him. The battle for the Xelorian Empire had just begun, and Jon was ready to face whatever came next. The days following the Council's growing resistance were filled with uncertainty. Jon had thought that once he secured the throne, the hardest part would be over. He was wrong. The real challenge wasn't in defeating assassins or gaining the throne. It was in proving himself worthy to lead an empire that had resisted humans for centuries. And now, with the council working tirelessly to undermine him, John realized that the fight was far from over. Lyra, the Xylorian princess, had been by his side through every twist and turn, but even her strength couldn't make the weight of the galaxy's expectations any lighter. She was the daughter of the king, a symbol of the Xylorian Empire, and yet she had chosen to support a human, a soldier from Earth, as her ruler. The nobility and the elite class were furious with her decision. They had expected her to rule, or at the very least, marry someone from a powerful alien race. But she had chosen John, a man with no royal blood, to share the throne with her. Despite the mounting pressure, Lyra remained resolute. She knew the strength John had shown during the battle to save her and her family. He was a man of honor, a man who valued the lives of others more than his own. It was this selflessness that made him a true leader. But the council, with all its wisdom and centuries of experience, could not see beyond their prejudices. They refused to accept that a human, a species they considered primitive, could rule the vast Xylorian Empire. In the shadows of their resistance, however, a new discovery was about to change everything. John had been searching for a way to strengthen his position in the Empire. He knew that the key to uniting the people of Xyloria, and perhaps the entire galaxy, was to uncover the hidden truths that lay buried in their history. Ancient scrolls, forgotten texts, and old relics from the days of the Xylorian ancestors held secrets that the council had hidden away. Secrets that could shift the balance of power. One day, while going through the royal archives, John stumbled upon something unexpected. It was an old weathered journal that had been tucked away in a corner of the palace library. The pages were yellowed with age, but the ink was still legible. As he flipped through the pages, John realized that this journal was not just a record of the past. It was a testament to a hidden legacy that had been forgotten by time. The journal was written by a long-lost ancestor of the Xylorian royal family, one who had been exiled centuries ago for his radical beliefs. But what caught John's attention wasn't just the story of the exile. It was the prophecy. The prophecy spoke of a time when the Xylorian Empire would face a great crisis, one that would threaten to tear the empire apart. It foretold the arrival of a leader who would be both an outsider and a warrior, someone who would unite the people and bring about a new era of prosperity. The journal described a chosen one who would be human, a stranger from a distant world, who would restore balance to the galaxy and lead the Xylorian people to their destiny. John's heart raced as he read the words. The prophecy spoke of him. He was the one who had been chosen, the one who would unite the fractured empire. He wasn't just a soldier. He was the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy, one that had been hidden away by the very people who now mocked him. The discovery of the prophecy couldn't have come at a more crucial time. The council's resistance was growing stronger, and whispers of rebellion were beginning to spread through the empire. The Xylorians were not used to being led by a human, and the nobles who once served the king were now questioning their loyalty. They had begun to seek support from neighboring alien factions, hoping to rally forces to their cause and overthrow John's rule. The tide of war was rising. The Xylorians, once a dominant force in the galaxy, were now vulnerable to attack from within and from without. The rival factions, eager to take advantage of the chaos, began to stir. John knew that he had to act quickly if he was going to secure his rule and protect the empire from destruction. But with the council working against him and the nobles plotting behind closed doors, the challenge ahead seemed insurmountable. John turned to Lyra for guidance. She had always been a symbol of strength for him, but even she seemed concerned about the growing unrest. The prophecy, "It speaks of you, John," Lyra said one evening, her voice soft but filled with certainty. "You were chosen to lead, not because of your blood, but because of your heart. The people will follow you if they believe in you." It was true. The people of the Xylorian Empire had seen what John could do on the battlefield. They had witnessed his courage and his willingness to fight for them, even when the odds were stacked against him. But he needed more than just their trust. He needed their belief. He needed to show them that he was the leader they had been waiting for. With the discovery of the prophecy, John knew he had a powerful weapon at his disposal, but he also knew that the road ahead would be difficult. The tides of war were rising, and the council would stop at nothing to ensure that he failed. They would use every tactic they had at their disposal to try to discredit him, to make him doubt himself, and to weaken his position. But John wasn't afraid. The prophecy had shown him the truth. He was the chosen one. He wasn't just a soldier fighting for survival. He was a leader fighting for the future of the galaxy. And as long as he had Lyra by his side, and the people of the Silurian Empire behind him, he would fight until the very end. The hidden legacy of the Silurian royal family had been uncovered, and with it, a new hope for the Empire. But the real battle was just beginning. As the forces of war began to gather on the horizon, John and Lyra would have to unite the people, confront the Council's resistance, and face the enemies who sought to destroy everything they had fought for. The fate of the Silurian Empire, and perhaps the entire galaxy, rested in their hands. The tension in the Silurian Empire had reached a boiling point. John stood at the edge of a precipice, and the weight of the galaxy's expectations was pressing down on him. Every day, the Council worked to weaken his position, and every day, the nobles schemed against him. The Empire was on the brink of war, and John knew that it was only a matter of time before the Council's resistance would turn into outright betrayal. The prophecy that had been uncovered had given John hope. It told of a human who would unite the Empire and lead it into a new age. But even as John clung to that hope, he knew that the path ahead would not be easy. The Council and the noble houses were not going to accept him as their ruler, and they would do whatever it took to remove him from power. The rise of humanity was something they feared, and they would fight to keep the status quo. The day the betrayal came was the day everything changed. It began with a simple meeting, a routine gathering of the Council. John had grown accustomed to their mockery, the whispers behind his back, and the dismissive glares. But today, something was different. The Council members were unusually quiet, their faces tense. John could feel it in the air, the calm before the storm. The leader of the Council, a cold and calculating alien named Krylor, stood before him. His multiple eyes glowed ominously as he spoke. "We have been patient with you, human." Krylor's voice echoed in the chamber. "But your rule has proven disastrous. Your reforms are weakening the Empire, and your presence here has disrupted the delicate balance of power we have carefully cultivated for centuries." John stood tall, refusing to let Krylor's words shake him. The Empire is not about the power of a few. It's about the people. It's about unity and progress. That's what I'm fighting for. Krylor's eyes narrowed. Unity? Progress? You speak of ideals, but you fail to understand the reality of this empire. You are nothing more than a tool in a much larger game. And now, we will end this charade. Before John could react, a dozen guards burst into the chamber, surrounding him. Krylor's smug smile stretched across his face as he watched the guards seize John. "You're not fit to lead. You never were. We'll be taking back control of the Empire." John's mind raced. He had been prepared for resistance. But this was something else. The Council had not only turned on him, they had orchestrated his downfall. They had betrayed him. As the guards restrained him, John's thoughts turned to Lyra. Where was she? Was she safe? He had no doubt that the Council would target her as well. The betrayal was not just personal, it was political. The Council had been playing their own game, manipulating the situation to their advantage. They had been waiting for the right moment to strike, and now that moment had arrived. The guards dragged John out of the chamber, but he didn't go down without a fight. He had been trained as a soldier, and he was not about to let the Council take him without a struggle. With a burst of strength, he broke free from the guards and fought his way toward the exit. But there were too many of them, and he was outnumbered. As he was subdued once again, he realized the gravity of his situation. This was no longer just a matter of leadership. It was a fight for survival. As John was taken to the holding cells, He found himself questioning everything. Had he been wrong? Had he misread the prophecy? Had he truly been chosen to lead, or had he simply been a pawn in the council's game? The doubt gnawed at him, but he refused to let it consume him. If the council thought they could break him, they were mistaken. He would rise again. But it wasn't just John's fate that was at stake. It was the fate of the entire empire. The Silurian people had long been oppressed by the ruling elite, their voices drowned out by the powerful factions that controlled everything. But John had awakened something in them. His fight for equality and progress had inspired the common people, and they had begun to rally behind him. While John was imprisoned, Lyra was working tirelessly to organize resistance within the empire. She knew that the betrayal of the council would not go unnoticed. The people would rise up. They had seen what John had done for them, and they would not allow the council to undo all of it. It was time for a revolution. In the weeks that followed, word of John's capture spread like wildfire. The people of the empire, the ones who had believed in him, began to take action. Small rebellions erupted across the galaxy, fueled by the anger of those who had long been oppressed. The nobles who had once sided with the council found themselves facing uprisings on every planet. The very power that the council had sought to protect was slipping away. The most shocking part of the revolution was the rise of the human fighters. Led by former soldiers who had fought alongside John, they began to form an army that was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The humans were united by their loyalty to John, but more than that. They were driven by a deep desire for justice. They had seen firsthand the power of the council, and they were determined to bring it down. As the tides of war turned in favor of the rebels, the council's grip on the empire weakened. The galaxy's most powerful factions, once united under the banner of the Silurian Empire, began to fracture. The rebellion spread from one system to another, with each victory emboldening the people and pushing the council closer to collapse. But the final blow came when Lyra, having escaped the council's reach, led a daring rescue mission to free John. She knew that the moment they united, the rebellion would have the strength it needed to defeat the council once and for all. The two of them, now united in their cause, led their forces to the heart of the empire, the capital city of Siluria. The final battle was nothing short of epic. The forces of the rebellion clashed with the council's elite troops, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. But in the end, it was the human spirit that triumphed. John and Lyra, with the help of their allies, defeated the council's forces and brought an end to the old order. With the fall of the council, the Silurian Empire was free. The humans had not only proven themselves capable of leading, they had saved the galaxy from the tyranny of the old guard. And as the new leaders of the empire, John and Lyra vowed to build a future where all races, human and alien alike, would be treated as equals. The rise of humanity was no longer just a dream. It was a reality. The final showdown had arrived. The empire was on the brink of collapse, and the entire galaxy held its breath as the fate of the Silurian Empire rested in the hands of John and Lyra. The once unshakable power of the council was crumbling, and the people, led by humanity's indomitable will, were ready for the decisive battle that would determine the future. The rebellion, fueled by the belief that humanity could lead the galaxy to a new age, had spread across the empire. The people from all corners of the galaxy had rallied behind John's vision, a vision of unity, progress, and equality. The revolution had grown stronger with each passing day, and the council's grip on power had become weaker. But even as hope surged among the rebels, the final battle loomed large, and the council was prepared to do whatever it took to maintain their dominance. John and Lyra stood together, looking out over the battle plans spread across a holographic map. The final assault was set to take place on Siluria's capital world, where the heart of the empire lay. It was here that the council had their stronghold, their most powerful military forces, and their most advanced technology. This would be the ultimate test for John and humanity, a fight that would not only decide their future but the future of every species under the rule of the empire. John looked at Lyra, his heart heavy with the weight of what was to come. "Are we ready?" he asked, his voice steady, but tinged with the gravity of the moment. Lyra's eyes met his, filled with determination. "We have no choice. We fight for the future, for the galaxy, for the people who believe in us. Together, we will bring an end to the tyranny." The rebellion had gathered its forces, a mix of human soldiers and loyal Silurians, all united under the banner of freedom. But the Council's forces were formidable. Their armies were well-trained, equipped with advanced weaponry, and bolstered by the alien technologies that had kept them in power for centuries. The battle would not be easy, but John knew that humanity had the strength to face even the most insurmountable odds. The day of the battle dawned, and the skies over Xeloria were filled with the roar of spacecraft and the tremors of military might. John stood at the front of his army, ready to lead his people into the heart of the storm. The energy in the air was electric, a mixture of fear and anticipation. But the humans, who had fought so hard for their place in the galaxy, were not afraid. As the first wave of the rebellion's forces clashed with the Council's soldiers, the battlefield erupted into chaos. Explosions rocked the ground as ships collided in the skies, their weapons lighting up the dark expanse of space. The sound of laser fire and the hum of energy shields filled the air. John fought alongside his soldiers, his mind sharp, his body moving with the precision of a seasoned warrior. But despite their courage, the rebels were being pushed back. The Council's forces were relentless, and their strategy was sophisticated. For every gain the rebellion made, the Council found a way to regain control. It seemed as though the tide of battle would never shift in favor of the rebels. In the midst of the chaos, Lyra fought valiantly by John's side. Her Xelorian heritage made her a formidable warrior, and her resolve was unshakable. But even she could feel the weight of the battle bearing down on them. The Council had deep reserves of strength, and their soldiers were not easily defeated. As the fight dragged on, it became clear that the battle would come down to one final confrontation, a direct assault on the Council's stronghold. John and Lyra, along with their most trusted soldiers, made their way through the war-torn streets of Xeloria's capital. They fought their way toward the Council's headquarters, where the leaders of the Empire, including Krellor, awaited. John's heart burned with a desire for justice. The betrayal he had suffered, the mocking of his rule, and the suffering of his people would all be avenged. This would be the moment where humanity's resilience would prove itself to the galaxy. As they approached the heart of the Council's fortress, John could see the looming silhouette of Krellor standing at the helm of the Empire's most powerful weapon, an enormous battle cruiser capable of obliterating entire fleets. The weapon was aimed at the heart of the rebellion's forces, and if it fired, it would wipe out any hope for victory. "We end this now," John said, his voice firm and resolute. He knew that if they didn't act quickly, the entire rebellion could be lost. His team moved with precision, each member focused on the task at hand. They stormed the stronghold, fighting off the Council's elite guards and pushing forward toward the control center. Inside, Krellor stood waiting for them. His eyes gleamed with cold satisfaction, knowing that the rebels had no chance against the might of the Council's weapon. "You think you can defeat me, human?" Krellor sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "You are nothing but a pawn. This galaxy was never meant for your kind to rule." John stood tall, unshaken by the alien's taunts. "This galaxy is for everyone," he said, his voice steady. "And today, it will be free." The final battle between John and Krellor was fierce, their weapons clashing with a violent intensity. Krellor fought with the strength of centuries of power, but John fought with the fury of a man who had nothing to lose. Every strike he delivered was fueled by the memory of his fallen comrades, the people he had sworn to protect, and the hope of a better future. In the end, it was John who emerged victorious. With a final powerful blow, he struck Krellor down, bringing an end to the reign of the Council and their grip on the galaxy. The weapon that had threatened to destroy the rebellion was deactivated, and the final remnants of the Council's forces were scattered. The victory was not just a triumph of strength, it was a triumph of humanity's will to survive, to fight for what was right, and to rise above the odds. As the dust settled and the skies cleared, the people of the galaxy cheered. Humanity had proven that they were more than just survivors. They were leaders, and they had earned their place among the stars. John and Lyra stood together, looking out at the new dawn of the Xelorian Empire. The battle was over, but the work had only just begun. The galaxy was theirs to rebuild, to unite, and to lead into a future where all races, human and alien alike, could live in peace and harmony. The rise of humanity was not just a story of war. It was a story of hope, of resilience, and of the unbreakable spirit that defined them. Humanity had triumphed, and the galaxy would never be the same again.